Okay, now I'm restarting it.
Okay. I was hoping all the people that were on our Zooms would be on here.
Maybe they haven't gotten home from their holiday.
No, do you think they could have not known it was, forgot it was tonight? I just can't believe that some of those people aren't on here.
I think they had enough interest. They knew it was Monday. You said it. We said it. You guys said it several times.
Did you have a hard time finding the link? It was kind of buried. You had to open up that one link in the message that Becky sent, unless there was another one. Do you think there's?
That's what I was wondering. It was a little different this time getting in, and it doesn't matter to us because we do meetings all the time. We just go different, whatever happens, happens. But I wonder if some of the people who don't do Zoom meetings don't know how to get to that. When I clicked on that link in the document, it didn't take me. I had to copy the meeting
You had
number.
to paste it. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
you had to copy and paste it, but that, I just wonder if they.
And then they had to do the passcode too.
Really?
I didn't have to. I didn't have to do that.
Oh, really?
I'm so sorry. It shouldn't have. It should have worked just like pasted into the email.
Yeah, I pasted in, but there's still.
Sorry.
Okay, I just sent a message to please resend this because I couldn't get it. I can't get things on my phone when they're part of a long chain for some reason.
Okay.
So what I did was I went in and I copied the part that had the link, and then I put it in a new email is how I finally got on.
Okay. Sorry that was so much trouble. I'm gonna go.
No, that's okay. I think that's why I've been having problems. It just doesn't do it when it's part of a long chain.
Okay.
Hey, is my audio working?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, my phone screen is all blank, and I thought, oh, I wonder if it's working.
Who is calling in number 3435007? So we can.
Carol Geist.
Carol Guy. Okay. I just wanted to know. So if you have a question.
I can't see anybody.
You have to do, oh, you're on your phone, right? Is that how it should be?
What?
Is that how you expected it to be?
Yeah, I'm not
Becky.
seeing anybody, and I can barely hear anything.
Becky, do you want me to go on to the Edwardsville League mail and send out the link to everybody again?
I'm doing that now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we start over.
Started.
No, I've been waiting. I'm going to wait till 5 after, but I think there's a problem. Did you, oh, it's 6 after now. Did you have a problem getting on?
No. It says,
Okay. Well, if she sends out,
ready?
Signed.
896 2561.
I'm going to wait a few more minutes then. We'll just have to talk fast.
8563. Well, it's not that long one with the HTTP, whatever. Okay. Now you join, and then I'll give you the passcode.
Let's see this.
Yeah, I just sent the link out again in an email all by itself.
Here,
So maybe if people are floundering, they can use that.
the little Zoom.
Who is that? Is that Carol's? Who is not muted?
Okay. Bye.
Let me turn my phone off while we're talking.
That was Joanne, but she said, I always click on the long link,
Right.
and she didn't know how to do it with the passcode, but you resent it, Becky, so she should be joining us.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that
Yeah,
she,
I
was
finally
RCA.
made it.
I thought there was a problem. Well, I think we should go ahead and start. I think there might be some other people, maybe, we'll see if, that are having trouble that can get in. Mary's phone, okay. So hopefully we have, like about 50 questions if you count all the ABC parts of some of them, and we have 2 hours. So we'll have a person read the question, and then we'll see what the consensus is. If there's not an overwhelming consensus right away, we can ask people for points that they would like to make. If there is a substantial negative, then we will put that we don't have a consensus, and the people who are voicing the negative position are supposed to provide the wording for what they think for their position, what they want sent.
I have one that I'd like to add something to. How do I do that?
Add to it
Mhm.
when we bring it up, I think.
Okay.
Can't we just do it when we get down to that number question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I wrote down, where did I put that? There is a part in under 8 where yours comes in on the school of on the, no, that's on the officers in the school. About the school of prison pipeline. I just see that comes in. Okay, so this is, I want to share my screen here. If I can get this, is this is small. I'm not sure how I can make this part bigger, but this talks about what is consensus. So it says this is how, basically the first paragraph says that this is how the league reaches their general agreement or accord. And it says by which a league board determines that there is a substantial agreement among members on an issue, and to refer to a specific technique used traditionally in the league to discuss and arrive at conclusions on issues. It says that consensus group discussion is a technique most often used in league for reaching member agreement. It's the process whereby members participate in group discussion of an issue. The consensus reached by members through group discussion is not a simple majority, nor is it unanimity. Rather, it is the overall sense of the group as expressed through the exchange of ideas and opinions. So that's what okay. I would like to take this out of order just a minute and go down and let Anne read her question. Anne, are you there? I lost my pictures.
Can I interrupt for a short reform?
I have,
Form thing, because those are the questions right in order.
okay, we can do them in order. Anne just needed to,
Well, no, I don't object to Ann, but I mean, it doesn't have all this descriptive stuff. It
no,
has
it's just the
question.
form, and then you, right, and then we answer yes consensus, no consensus.
Right, well, I
And-
just thought it might be simple to read it off of that, but I don't care, whatever.
It doesn't have, this does not have, this is the PowerPoint that they suggested we use.
Okay,
This is not what we used before, although it is the same things, but this is their PowerPoint script
all right,
for the meeting.
that's fine.
And we can just read the question. We don't have to look at everything else. And so, Anne,
Okay, I wasn't asking to go early. I had written to Carol and told her that I'd had company for 3 days and had to be up early in the morning and I was fading fast and I might quietly leave after my question 8, but I'll go ahead and do it and then see how long I last.
okay, so let's go down to, let me get down here to question 8.
Okay. Question 8 is about issue of restorative justice, and the keys to restorative justice are that it's community-based and that it operates from a belief that the path to justice lies in problem solving and healing rather than punitive isolation. So the first question,
Where did I get there? Hold on just a second. You're going faster than my
sorry,
scrolling is going here. All right, I'm almost there. I didn't counting on scrolls. Okay, go ahead.
it's really a short one. There are only 2 questions as a part of number 8. The first question, and I'm restating it. I mean, if we read it, the question is, well, as you have it there, should the criminal justice system be open to the use of restorative justice approaches and values? And
So let's see what the general consensus is on that.
okay. And how do we do that? Just by saying we're for it, or
Anne, could you kind of review what the summary that you gave us?
We only have,
I think that's,
she'd have to do it really quickly because we only have a couple of minutes, but.
well, yeah, I mean,
But restorative justice means what?
restorative justice means that it's community-based and that it operates from a belief that the path to justice lies in problem solving and healing rather than punitive isolation. So it's kind of a subset of prosecutorial diversion. So looking for ways to keep from sending people to prison, looking for alternatives within the community and support systems that might help the people who have committed crimes find a better solution to the problems that drove them to that, or so it's that sort of thing. It's trying to avoid prison and find solutions that can help the accused solve personal issues and become a functioning part of the community again. That's
And I think it also brings the victim into the discussion, usually
that's true.
where they meet and share, and each person tells the victim and the person who did the crime, say what impact it had on them, right? And then that helps them to work it out.
It seems to be a very
Do we think we can agree with that?
Approach. They talked about some ways that it's in use within the state of Illinois, and gave some good examples of
It's
that.
used,
So that first question, though, I think really is, does the Illinois Constitution allow the use of restorative justice? And the answer, the pro answer is that while those words aren't found in the Constitution, the concept is found in Article 1, Section 11, which states all penalties shall be determined both according to the seriousness of the offense and with the objective of restoring the offender to useful citizenship.
Yeah, this is Carol R. talking. As I recall our discussion, that I think that we had a favorable opinion of the restorative justice.
It seemed that way to me when we talked about it. I think our discussion was positive, and we talked about an example of a restorative justice that is here in Edwardsville in Madison County.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is yes on that. I'm not hearing anybody objecting to it. So I'm gonna say yes, we reach it. Do you want to read the second part?
Yes, please. The second part is must restorative justice courts to be successful involve members of the community. And I think the answer to that is yes. The goals of restorative justice talk about community involvement and finding solutions to the problem within the community and involving, as Carol said, not only the victim, but others in the community that can help to solve the problems.
I think you
Con
have,
to that was, the con to that was that it was just too much work to keep community members involved. And that seems like a weak negative to me.
Am I hearing agreement, pretty much agreement on that? I think. I'm not hearing, I'm not hearing opposite.
I think you have to have that in order for it to be successful, because the community has to accept the person. So they go hand in hand.
Right.
And then
Okay, and the last part?
C is must restorative justice courts be adequately funded. And
Sorry.
as with anything else, yes, it's not free. The con for that is that it seems unlikely that two systems can be adequately funded. But I think the examples that were given indicate that there can be parallel systems, because for one thing, the people that are in the accused who are involved in a restorative justice project, that's not just the channel that they're put in. They have agreed to that, and the victims agree to that, and so it is a choice and basically a subset of the possibilities for how you deal with criminal issues. So yes, it costs money, but I don't think that it's true that two systems can't be adequately funded.
And they're also not saying, we're not saying that it has to happen all across the state, all at once and fully funded without any other creative funding like grants. So I think that's kind of a red herring question and really not fair. I think it's okay to say, yes, it should be funded, and we don't have to define how or when or in what sequence all of this should be funded.
I think all in all, it's a very helpful
Yes.
alternative.
And it is recognized in the statute that was just adopted. So.
Oh, great.
Okay, then I'm hearing that the consensus says that yes, all those questions should be answered yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's
Great.
move on to question. Let's go back to question. Oh, is there another one?
No, it's a thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Anne. That you did such an excellent summary of that. If
It was
anybody
very-
wants to see that on our
very,
in our documents.
Very interesting to me. So thanks for that.
Okay, so let's go back up to the top again. Investing in communities to reduce crime and violence. To reduce crime and violence, should there be investment in underserved and or impoverished communities? And I think this is the idea of investment maybe before to help keep people from getting into crime. Does anybody want to speak to that? With your feeling on that?
Well, I remember when we had the first meeting, that seemed to be sort of a given that everybody felt that way.
Right,
That's what I heard in our meeting, yeah.
right.
Okay, so I'm hearing that that's our consensus is yes.
Right.
Okay. Number 2, bias in the criminal justice system. Should there be periodic training for individuals working in the criminal justice system to recognize implicit racial and ethnic bias in order to more adequately work toward the goal of equal treatment under the law?
This is the one that I wanted to add something to, or maybe it would be mean rewording that. I'll read what I would like to add. Police training will consist of evidence-based educational methods for changing attitudes, biases, and behaviors. I put that in there because an hour's lecture could count as training, but I don't think you're going to change biases and attitudes and behaviors by lectures alone. There are lots of other methods for educating people. In fact, I wish they'd use the word education rather than training, because training sounds like, you know, an hour requirement and you check off the list after an hour's lecture. And that's not how people are going to learn and change their attitudes and behaviors.
Well, Sylvia, wasn't there even reports that backed that up that said that traditional training wasn't very useful in this particular area?
That's why I think we should say using evidence-based educational methods. I mean, it could be role playing, it could be face-to-face, work with people, it could be other things, but just saying training, it's not going to be, training doesn't really specify what's going to be effective.
So you're saying we would approve this, but we want to modify it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a good modification.
Yes.
Yeah, and that would be a place at the end of this form, there's a place for comments. So I think that would.
Yes.
Did you just say police,
Could you?
Sylvia?
What?
Did you say just police in the beginning of your statement?
I just said training will consist, it uses training here for individuals working the criminal justice. I said training will consist of evidence-based educational methods for changing attitudes, biases, and behaviors.
Yeah, I think it should be for everyone involved in the system.
Okay, yeah, I didn't intend to say police, but
I did, and I just thought I heard it. I just wanted.
It doesn't matter. I don't know. You're right, though. It would be everybody involved.
Would you email that statement to me, the exact words so we can include that?
Yes.
And then some people said that bias training does not prevent violence, right? It does not necessarily prevent.
Yeah,
violence.
I worked on this question, and
right.
The bias training doesn't necessarily change police behavior immediately. And the idea is that periodic is an important word in there. This has to be an ongoing thing. It's not a one-shot deal, one and done, you know. It has to be ongoing. And, you know, even if it doesn't change police behavior immediately, the idea is that because all the consequences are so dire that they have to be aware of this problem and aware of their own biases so that they can begin to work on it, even if it's not accomplished immediately.
So
I'm hearing that we have a consensus.
Well, Jane, I'm asking
I'm sorry,
Jane a question here. Do you think periodic ought to be changed to ongoing?
Well, I would say if it's periodic, that means that it's not going to be a one-time thing. Isn't that what you would understand by that?
Yes, I agree. I think it needs to be, well, I don't know. I think there should be some people that should be, or some way to individualize more treatment for certain people. I don't know how you put that in there, but there are some identifiable individuals in the system who you can point to. And I don't know if there's a generalized inclusion for something like that. You know, if you all just take a class and you just keep moving on and you don't get down to the individuals in that class, does that make sense? You're not
Well,
going to
maybe
be,
there should be a provision for removing those people
or at least
from-
try to get them more
from working in the criminal justice system.
right. If that, yeah, if they don't modify their behavior. And I think that's in other sections too. So
That's what I was going to say. I mean, maybe we're parsing words a little bit too much. The point is, should there be training to
Okay.
make people aware of problems that they should be avoiding?
So
Okay, so then I'm gonna put the,
Carol J,
What?
it sounds like we have a consensus that we want to add that modification in the comment section.
yes, that's what that's what I will record.
Mhm.
Okay, I think Brent is going to read the third one, aren't you?
Sure. It's,
Is that right?
sure. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Should a
Yes.
gender responsive approach be used for all offenders with the goal of equitable and appropriate treatment? And to summarize that, I think what it recognizes that some people that are brought to justice, especially and namely women and gay people, are at greater risk of physical and mental abuse, so that they should, those risks should be provided for when they're under the umbrella of the justice system, especially when they're incarcerated. When we discussed it, the only thing I noted that was brought up was what equitable means. I'm not sure that's still an issue, but and it also, some people or somebody proposed that implementing actions should be based on studies that identify problems relating to inequitable and inappropriate treatment and actionable solutions. And I think that was also brought up for some of the other questions, that what is done should be based on facts and studies and research. So that's all I have for that one.
Okay. Does anybody want to speak again for a con on that?
I guess
If
one of the
not,
things,
I'm going to say we have a consensus of yes.
this is Barb Scott.
Okay,
And one of the things I remember discussing was the fact that some areas of Illinois may not be able to do it without adversely affecting the prisoner. Like, you know, where would they put them in a small jail? How would they give them equitable treatment? How is that possible in a small rural area? And then we said maybe possibly they end up going to Chicago because they could put them in a separate area and treat them differently in Chicago. Well, then that makes them not near their family. So that is depending on what the treatments are, how they're going to treat them equitably could impact them adversely, and they may not want that. I just remember that discussion.
Susan, do you think this relates just to prison? What would be or
No.
anybody? Do you think it means jail even in the county jails?
I think it means in the system, period.
Yeah,
That's the way I took it also.
that's the way
From the time they're brought in
Mhm.
to
Oh,
through their
they don't even have,
incarceration.
okay.
The entire criminal justice system. I mean,
Right.
when you talk about jails, they do have rules and regulations for that. Not that they're always followed, of course, But I think there's less attention paid to that kind of stuff once you once you get into the courtroom.
Mhm.
And then,
Well, it says with,
That could be a comment that could be there. I mean, we could approve this and say we have a consensus on it, but make the comment there about the problem with, there are some counties that only have 4,000 or 5,000 inhabitants in it. So
they do share though. They share around. Like 3 or 4 of them are usually under one judicial circuit. And they're
Okay.
close enough together where they do. I know in this area, I don't know, but I'm thinking like, Macoupin, Jersey, and Green, they all, they have the same judges that rotate around. And, they have, if they don't have facilities or they're full or whatever, they can trade around if you're talking about jail situation. So the need probably for
and I
going
think the
to
question,
isn't as much. But
the question does say with the goal of equitable and appropriate
Yes.
treatment too. So, I mean, they can work on improving their situations as, so I'm hearing you say we have a consensus, yes, but we should put in the note that we realize that might be, do we want to say that we realize it might be more difficult in smaller counties,
I
or
would
do we
like to-
want
I would like
to
to see us
say
narrow,
that?
I'd like to see us narrow the scope and be more specific about this question, because right now, the way it's phrased, it's kind of vague and touchy-feely. Like, we're going to do this just to be nice and equitable. And I don't think that it's hard to enforce that. I think that the real goal here ought to be for the safety of the person, of the offender, because I think that's the real issue. I don't think the system has a responsibility to take care of how someone feels about something, but I think that they have a responsibility to care for the safety of the person, and how that relates to their gender or identified gender is kind of critical. If someone identifies as one gender and the judge says, put them in with the other gender because that's how they were biologically born, that's a safety issue.
right. And I think
Okay,
it should
it's
not be.
safety. I think, well,
I don't
If
think
there's
it
no
should,
ahead.
safety at stake, then I don't think there's a responsibility.
and I don't think it should be limited or say that it might be harder for smaller counties because they have just as much responsibility,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
need to be put on task to do that. It's not that difficult.
No,
And
and I think if we narrow it to safety, then the system doesn't have responsibility to, just because somebody says, I'm gender this, I want to be treated a certain
I
way.
think that
Not
if
necessarily.
I remember, it wasn't. I think that the question though was not just about safety. I mean, we can narrow it as it's read. It was not just about safety. For instance, it was if we provide health care to people who are, can't even think of the term, but anyway, if we provide health care to people, and the health care that someone who's transgender needs is, specific
That's true,
hormones
yeah.
or something,
Health,
then
health and
should we have
safety.
the goal, would it be equitable treatment to provide that for them?
Right, could we put in something like health and
I think
safety?
it wasn't just safety, it was also,
Health and safety would be good.
Well, maybe we could include that in the comment section. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I don't think equitable and appropriate
with
treatment
an emphasis.
means much, and to do that just for the sake of equitable treatment doesn't mean anything. If you're doing it for health and safety, yes, that makes perfect sense.
And gives a better focus.
Okay, so I'm putting consensus to that, yes, but then we need to add comments to that. Do we want, and we will need specific wording on that. So we want to say that we would like it see the wording changed to include with the goal of ensuring the health needs and safety of the persons. I need some wording on that sentence.
I think that captures it, what you just said.
How's that sound, Becky?
Yes, I agree.
We will be, after we do this, and then we'll put these recordings together, and maybe other people from the committee will want to help and go over those. And then and we have to do it soon because we have to have the board approve what we're sending to. And then it has to get there by the end of the month. So the board will review the wording that we do. It won't be like, oh, I'm just going to come up with some wording and then send it off. There will be board review of our wording.
Do we need to schedule a meeting for that? I didn't realize the board had to do this too.
I didn't either. We'll have to do that before we're done.
Ah,
Number 4, we're not going to get through this unless we go a little bit faster. Data collection and transparency. Are efficient data collection, data sharing, and transparency critical in an impartial and unbiased criminal justice system? I think that speaks to when we say we use best practices and research-based practices. If that's what we want, then we have to have the collection and the sharing.
I think
Comments?
we originally discussed this, we were all in favor of that.
Okay,
I think so too.
okay, great. 5, criminal, I think Barb, did you want to read this one?
Yeah. Should criminal justice coordinating councils be created throughout the state? Should I go ahead and read all the questions or just that one? How do you want me to do it?
Let's do each one at a time.
Okay. All right. So the discussion that we had indicated that everybody thought that they were good ideas. However, they should not be mandated for each county. And I put that in my little blurb if you want to add that as a comment. I said, some counties may have reasons to establish the CJCC while others do not have the resources within their county or trained personnel to effectively establish one, nor the need for one. So that was the comment that came out of our discussion. And that's in my thing I sent up, number 5 in the discussion. Any discussion on that?
That sounds good to me.
Huh?
And then let's go to 5B.
I'm a little confused, not needed,
Yeah.
but
You don't need it.
Well, I guess the way I remember the discussion is there are some people some counties that have a lot of rural people and they're all out farming and they're not doing things that Chicago would be doing. So they wouldn't need to have somebody sitting down saying, let's do this, because they do it automatically, or they just don't have the kids or the crime. They don't have the reason to sit down and have a big group get together and say, how do we solve this problem? Because they don't have the problem.
Well, even rural areas have lots of problems with drugs now.
Well, yeah, but if they don't, they shouldn't be forced, maybe.
I'm just having a thought about the whole purpose of the league having a position. I mean, the league is not tasked with writing the law. It's just having a position, kind of saying, in an ideal world, this is what we would like to see, right?
Right.
We don't have to work out every detail of doing this. Am I?
Correct.
Agreed.
Correct.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
We don't have to get that in deep into it. Right.
Okay, so then
Just
what
get a
I'm hearing
position.
that we think yes, we think that they're yes, but the consensus set is that it should not be mandated because of the funding constraints.
It seems to me if we say that, we're talking about the pro and the con. And maybe you can do that, but the con is that all justice is local and that maybe you can and maybe you can't, and maybe the community can't pay for it. So I sort of think we're either for it or we're not.
I look at it as what we would want. As she said before, it's not up to us to solve every step in how we get there. But this is the goal, what we would like to see.
And we're not saying whether they're required or whether they're encouraged or what. I think just
Well,
saying
actually,
we're for it is
right, and
good.
actually, and the question says that they should be created throughout the state. The question doesn't say it should be mandated that every county has to have one.
Right.
We're saying that it should be created throughout the state.
But are they county? Is that where they exist now? Like, is that the formation of a
Yes,
community?
yes. That's how they're set up by county.
So you basically are saying they should be in every county.
Well, wasn't it
Yes.
county and judicial circuit they mentioned?
I'm sorry.
Right. Well, it says created throughout the state. I think that is the goal, is to have it everywhere, but it doesn't actually say that it should
But
be.
again, we're not saying how it should be done. We're saying it should be done.
But that's the way it's done. And then, you know, you're not saying it should be set up in areas. You're saying it should be set up. And if that's the way it's set up, then does that make sense? That's the way it's going to be seen. That's going to be the way it's represented, is that it's going to be for every county.
Well, I think it says
something different unless you say
it would be for counties.
in judicial districts. Judicial districts are different than counties. Most of them involve more than one county, like we're Bond and Madison. Some of the other ones like have 3 and 4 counties in the smaller areas. That might be more viable to the smaller areas. If we said, you know, they should set them up and make a comment for judicial districts as opposed to individual counties, which may not be able to.
That is true. They are normally set up by county. That is the way my research showed. However, we could put in the comments, they should be set up by judicial district instead.
I think to this line, right? Well, I can't hide it. It says each department from police to parole is individually funded with impact and success defined within the narrow scope of each organization. So I think they're just even saying that the police and the parole department and the counseling department, you know, whoever, they should all be working together. So even in a rural or a small county, instead, you know, you shouldn't have each little group doing its own thing. They should be coordinating together for the best way to address something. And that can happen no matter how. If you're on your city level, you shouldn't have each department doing its own thing, because you might have each one funded, but there might be something they could collaborate and share their funds or something and even do it more efficiently.
I think that's one reason why we came up with, why we discussed not having to have every county have one, because some counties have an informal structure where they have certain things. I think I haven't found a lot of proof of this, but just by reading a little bit that I read about it, it indicated that there were some counties that had some structure already in place that didn't have the formal structure of having a meeting every month with certain participants and all that kind of stuff, like a council would have to do. And it wouldn't have to do the reporting and the statistical analysis to determine whether what they decided was, cost effective and all that kind of stuff. So like the smaller the county, the less responsibility would be placed on it if they felt they could do it without the structure of a council.
Well, I think I'm hearing that
So
we all think it should be one of these coordinating things, but the mechanism is unclear. So can we agree that there should be criminal justice coordinating councils?
we like the
Yes.
concept, but we like the concept, but we aren't sure on, we don't have consensus on what, on,
Well, some of those questions are answered in part B and C if you look further down.
Mhm.
all right, let's look down
I
farther.
mean,
Go
that's
ahead.
what
You want to
I
read
feel,
part B?
But that's my opinion.
I think that was.
Should
part-
CJCCs include a wide representation from local justice systems, agencies, other government bodies, service providers, and the community? When we discussed this before, we discussed the fact that some smaller counties don't have these big service providers or nonprofit organizations that could be included. They just don't have them. But the question is, should they be included? And our discussion was, yes, they'd be very helpful to be included. If you had people who had victims advocates, housing resources, workforce training, veterans advocates, faith-based groups, if you had all these people involved, you'd have a better representation of what was needed for the community.
So couldn't we say that we're for these, but that the structure of them should be appropriate to the local county or area that they're in?
I think that's good.
That would be fine.
That's good.
Yep.
Get that wording,
says it.
together. Would you, Becky?
The structure should be appropriate
To the county or
to
jurisdiction,
the local,
whatever area that
to
this is
local
in.
county.
Yeah.
Should I read 5C?
All right, yes, go ahead.
Should incentives and support be provided for the establishment of local CJCCs to assist them as they develop strategic plans to address crime and corrections policy? And the discussion brought up saying nothing was successful without the support, having resources and finances to support it. So yes, we should provide
Yes.
it.
That's a yes.
Another no-brainer.
5D, should there be cooperation and coordination between the state and CJCCs in order to share experience and data with the goal of improving plans to address crime and corrections policy both locally and statewide? This is where we discussed the fact if there were small counties, they could actually learn from the big counties about how they did things and possibly use their recommendations on how to fix some of the problems.
Sounds good.
So I guess we have consensus on that too.
So a consensus on yes of all of them. Was the first one a yes too then? Was there any extra comments on that first part though?
I think
About,
that's where you should put the structure comment.
Right, the 5A should be about created throughout the state. What does that mean? What is the, what
should
does it
be
mean?
Shouldn't be.
appropriate to the local county and jurisdiction. That comment should come under A.
Yes,
Okay. Okay, question. Six, policing, I guess I'll read that one. Is building trust and nurturing legitimacy on both sides of the police-citizen divide foundational to positive relationships between law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve?
Yes.
Yes.
I feel that's
No-brainer.
kind of,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
okay, I'm hearing is, if anybody wants to speak different, against that, but I'm hearing yes. Okay, 6B. Now, Jane, listen in here for where your part should come. I mean, the part about the school to prison pipeline. I think there's a part where, no, yeah, you have to see where we put that in, or maybe we need to add it. Should law enforcement agencies collaborate with community members to develop policies and strategies to reduce crime?
Yes.
I think we have a consensus. Yes, okay.
Yes, yes.
Should law enforcement adopt model policies and best practices for current technology-based community engagement that increases community trust and access?
I don't know what that means because I wasn't there for that one. What do they mean?
Well,
Best practices.
What?
well, and adopt technology-based community engagement that increases community trust. Like, I think this might be where you would say, don't bring in the latest military technology development, maybe?
No, I
If
don't
it's like,
I don't think
I
that's there.
don't think that's what that means. There's a
it doesn't say that?
technology-based community. It wants to have current technology-based community engagement. What does that mean? Does it define it someplace? It's not conducive.
I do.
Well, you can read what it says on
Technology that
there.
are not desirable or those that are more appropriate for the military than for police.
Oh, is
So it
that
is
what
talking
it is?
about military
I
stuff.
think that's a strange way to put that.
It is very strange.
That's what it says, right? Some technology, for instance, they have those heat rays. I don't know, have you heard those like heat rays they use in the military sometimes where they make people feel so hot that they want to take off? I don't know exactly how they work, but
do we have?
there are some technology, that's what it's
being used by the police? I've never even heard of that. I mean, I think they're going to say that they should be more specific about not using military technology. I thought they were talking about like, I don't know,
Computers. Yeah.
something else with technology, like public service announcements or I don't know what. I just didn't know what that meant at all. And I did miss that meeting, but I had no idea it had to do with the military.
well, that's one. Some are not desirable. Well, yeah. So what do we, so
Well,
We could
it
say
does
it's very
up
vague.
there against that talks about the military thing. In C,
it's what?
the last sentence in C, it deals with the military.
Right. I see it now, but the statement itself does not refer to that being military. And you're talking about building community relationships. I just thought that was out of.
So I just had, the last statement says types of technology that are not desirable are those that are more appropriate.
But if we're looking at 6C as a position, if that's all that's out there, that means
The question is about,
it's too vague
And
for me to
Ferguson
support.
got a lot of criticism for having those big tanks and so forth in the streets, intimidating people. I think they're definitely saying they're not to use this military type equipment. I think that's the point.
Yeah, that's the
but
point.
I'm just
It's only
saying,
in the
could they?
supporting information. In the position itself, there's no mention of that. So the position itself means nothing. It's, you can interpret
well,
it.
it means it does, well, it says, should they adopt policies that increase community trust and access? So we say yes or no. So if we don't think they should be, I mean, they're saying that the use of military, things more suitable for military would be bad because they would decrease community trust.
I guess. I could support this. I just
And
think.
so
it's
they're saying,
very
should they
vague.
only use technology that increases community trust and access, or should it be all hand, you can use whatever you need to use? It doesn't matter if the community is,
But you're not
likes it or not.
talking about community working together with the community. You're not talking about breaking down the community. It doesn't, it doesn't fit with the overall theory of this section, which is to improve community relations.
Guns don't improve community trust and access. You don't want police to stop using guns. I mean, the question is problematically vague. Maybe
We
the
could
intent
just-
of it is good. The intent of it is good. and
Okay, so
supporting
we
the
don't have a
community is good.
consensus then because of the wording?
Yes, it's too vague.
Right, right.
That sounds good. No consent.
Yeah.
Right.
No, because of the wording, okay. All right, should community policing be the guiding philosophy of all stakeholders, law enforcement agencies, schools, social services, churches, and businesses?
Yes.
Yes.
Does law enforcement agencies include the prosecutors? During the discussion? Because I'd like to include them specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a stakeholder.
But that sometimes we're not included as law enforcement agencies, but if we are, fine. Could we make that a comment that,
We can make that a comment.
okay,
It's good.
that they're a big part of that,
All right.
I think.
That it should include what?
Prosecutors.
The state's
Prosecutors.
attorney. Prosecutors, oh, okay. Okay, and E, should quality training and education begin with recruits and continue throughout the officer's career? I think we all.
I think we can all agree with that.
But I have something I would add to
Consensus on-
that. I have something I'd like to add to that.
Okay,
The police education should emphasize the role of police as guardians and protectors rather than warriors. It should emphasize problem solving rather than punishment. That gets at that whole thing of the culture of the police.
okay, can you send me that wording?
If people agree with it, yes.
Well, that's a good comment, right?
I agree with it.
Good.
I'll send it.
So yeah, it's not, you're right, it's not just addressing the individuals, it's also addressing the culture,
Mhm.
the quality. I know they have to, okay, send me that statement,
Okay.
please. Okay. F is the wellness, the health and safety of law enforcement officers critical not only for the officers, their colleagues and their agencies, but also to public safety. I think that's,
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Is it desirable for police to use alternatives to deflect offenders
Another
from arrest?
no-brainer.
Yes, but I think we could,
Although I kind of disagree with that because I think it puts too much responsibility on the police and also invites abuses of letting people go that shouldn't be let go because they know them or whatever, if you understand what I'm saying.
I think
Well, I
that
was gonna
actually was
suggest-
just included in the state, I think that was just included in the state law that passed that gave officers more leeway to decide whether to arrest someone, wasn't it?
They have that leeway anyway. I mean, seriously, they make those decisions on almost every arrest that they have. In
Let's see
the
what this
juvenile
says.
system, it's been used extensively in the past, say, okay, I'm not gonna send you to court, but you're gonna come down and do some community service, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes officers have gone in if someone is stealing baby formula or baby food, gone in and paid for it and said, look, here are your places where you go for free things. I mean, they do it every day.
And I've been given warnings when I think, what if I was some black kid doing the
Yeah.
same thing I accidentally did when I missed a stop sign or something? Would they just get a
Mhm.
warning?
No, it depends on who
That's
it
what
is.
I'm
I
talking
think
about.
this question,
I was going to add, I had
if
something
you
I was,
read,
I had something I wanted to add to this
Go ahead,
question
Sylvia.
too. And that's something that we discussed, but it isn't, I don't know whether it's thought it would fit here, and that's create incentives for police to use alternative, less intrusive, less punitive interventions rather than rewarding them for the number of arrests, citations, traffic stops, etc.
Right, that should, is that, yeah, we need to put that in there. I don't know if that's exactly there. Part of what we're missing in this question is, this says, this has to deal with what is called defunding police, but redirecting funding, doesn't it? Because it says police are called upon to respond to a number of issues that would be better handled by the public health system or social services.
Well, it's part of it, but part of it's just
Too
like what
often police
Susan,
rely on.
part of it is just like what Susan was talking about a little bit ago, where they decide, okay, this person's going to pay for what they did. They're going to do public service, or they find alternatives. It's not just that about the social services, but I mean, that could be included in it.
No, it's not just.
And that is included
So
in the new law too, about getting mental health services. That part of it is.
That dealt with in question 12.
what is that? Is it dealt with later? Maybe.
Yes, I
yes.
think it does.
Some of that
But
is.
I don't want to be the only one who feels that. But all 6 or 7 issues of 12, it seems to me that deals with that.
Okay.
Okay, so I heard Brent you said you thought that maybe this would allow some people to get off that shouldn't be.
That's part of it. And
If this says, is it desirable?
Yeah.
This says, is it desirable for police to use alternatives? It doesn't say police should use alternatives.
Right.
I don't object to saying yes to this. I just have some misgivings about what kind of added responsibility to officers to know which way to go, basically, in any encounter they have.
Yeah.
But no, I don't object to making that a consensus yes.
Okay, I'm going to then. Pretrial procedures. Should we delete the existing position?
You're gonna let me read mine?
Oh, that is yours. Yes, I am. Yes, I am, Susan.
Thank you. Should we delete the existing position and revise our position based on consensus regarding the following issues? And the current position talks about supporting a bail bond system to ensure court appearance and who buy bail monies for fees. Financial ability should not be a criterion for pretrial release. Thorough evaluation investigation should precede the use of release on recognizance. So I think we wanted, the consensus was to change that.
Right.
Right.
And delete, in particular, the bondsman stuff. We don't need bondsmen. To
So
delete.
that's 7A, we agree, the consensus is yes.
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 Yes. Mhm.
And the part B, should cash bail be abolished?
Carol, you're taking my.
Oh, well, I thought we had you asked the question, I thought we had a consensus. All right, I'm sorry.
Should cash bail be
Proceed.
abolished? I think the consensus was yes. On
But
that.
did we have a thing about violent crime?
Yeah, I think
That
that
it should only be used in non-violent crime?
that's C. We get that. We get there.
Okay.
Susan.
It's next.
Okay, I see that, right.
So C is, should defendants be detained in jail only if they are a flight risk or a danger to society? And I think that brings in both issues that are the concern of the new law too, which is what
Right.
it's based on. So I believe the consensus was yes on that too.
Mhm.
Any objections so far? We're going to zip through mine.
No.
Should risk assessments be transparent and designed to exclude weights that may be prejudicial against certain populations? How do we feel? Yes?
Yes.
I would think that, yes, that's common sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should electronic monitoring be used rarely for offenders prior to trial and or sentencing? I don't know that we really got too much into this one.
I mean, how often is it used?
Well, you know what? As of about 5-6 years ago, it was non-existent because it was too expensive. But it's now back in use, at least in Madison County. I don't
The
know.
thing of it is, would it be cheaper to do that than to keep the expense having them in jail?
Yeah, I mean, that's, as a defense attorney, that's what I wanted to use it because my not so bright client kept reoffending in the with his supposed girlfriend, and he kept being charged every time he did it. So the electronic monitoring was the only way to keep him away from her.
It should be yes then, right?
Yeah, but it seems to be taken in such a negative context here. I think it's a useful device, and I would not like rarely. But you know, if it's it would be in a situation where they could be a risk or a flight risk, and if they have the monitoring device, they would be more likely to stick around. But that's just my opinion.
What if we like, do you like the word appropriately better than rarely?
Yes.
That sounds better.
So we say our consensus is, how do we say yes, but then if they change this word, or do we say no because we would rather see a different word, or what do you think, Joanne?
I'm not really sure. I mean, are we changing the whole concept of the question?
Yeah, we are.
If we are, then
should-
we should just write, I guess, no consensus and say why.
Yeah, put no, and then in the comments, our consensus was to have the position be this. How does that sound?
Good.
Well, it says that the defendant is neither a danger to the community,
right?
But they're saying don't use it unless it's a danger to the community or flight risk. Otherwise, it's not appropriate to use it.
But they don't say that.
Yes.
No,
Well,
in their statement is should be rarely used for offenders.
It does not say anything about dangerous.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's too
broad.
Too broad. Okay. Too broad of wording. What else do we want to say? Too broad of wording.
Because there's some situations in which it is appropriate.
Such as to be used only for flight risk, or if they're a danger to the community, to be situations of that way, as opposed to rarely.
Okay.
I mean, it defines rarely, I guess, is what it does.
Okay, we don't like the word rarely. Okay.
Okay, ready?
There's another point. Yeah.
7F, must the bond court judge review the public safety assessment that is the basis of determination as to an individual's release?
Can you interpret that for us?
I guess there is an examination of Illinois and national pretrial practices and reforms that talks about a pre-trial risk assessment tool. And I think that is in the new law. And I guess I'm assuming it would be prepared by the probation department, who does kind of an assessment for us now about this person's situation. And I would think you'd have to have something like that in order for the judge to make a determination. They're having those detention hearings. And I would think you'd want something independent other than the defense attorney or the prosecutor getting information to the court. So I think that's a good thing.
That's protection for the person, really, right?
Well, I think it's a protection for everybody.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, because each side's going to be arguing that this person is either good or bad.
Right.
And you need somebody independent to say, well, this person has done this or hasn't done that or whatever, to give the judge something to put his or her finger on for a decision. I mean, some of it's going to be obvious, but a lot of it isn't. So,
Okay, so do we have a consensus? Yes?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Yes.
G, 7G, should pretrial service providers remind defendants of court appearances? I like the con. I'm sorry. I think that you should be able to remember that like your dentist appointment. But
a lot of these people
My
live
dent.
very chaotic lives. And I think giving them a reminder is not going to hurt anything. It's more likely to help them get their life straightened out than getting sent back to jail because they missed a court date.
I have one comment.
Susan, I just want to say your dentist office calls you the day before and reminds you.
Well, some of them do. Some of them don't. That is true. But I think you need to remember too, a funding issue. They put so much work on the pretrial services department, which is in Madison County within the probation department, which I would think it usually would be. Those people are so underfunded that they need to remember that they're going to need more people to do this. You know,
well, then why don't we make that as a comment? We approve of the theory, but it needs to be supported by more personnel.
There you go. Okay, I'm happy.
Well, okay, but if they don't come, it's going to cost them to go out and track them down or notify them for their next, another time. So it kind of balances out.
No, they don't.
What?
They don't have to hunt them down. That's not their job.
I'm not sure. I think in the state bill that just passed, said that if they don't,
what we want,
okay,
the law may or may not address.
Okay.
That.
All right. So what are we saying then? I need the wording for that. The wording.
It's yes, but down in the comments, we wanted to say something about ensuring personnel, additional personnel to handle these.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
7H, should an attorney or public defender be present for all defendants at all hearings? Yeah, at all hearings, it's like required.
Is that a general consensus?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's the Constitution. Okay. I'm done. Yay. How about that?
Okay, we already did 8, which was a long one. I think I missed something.
Missed 9.
9.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Did I go past it? Yeah.
Yes.
How did I get down to 11? All right.
Wishful thinking, Carol.
Yeah, really, I know. Emerging adults. Should emerging adults age 18 to 25 in the criminal justice system be treated in a developmentally appropriate manner, recognizing that those in this age group are not fully mature and culpable for their actions?
I will say no.
Other comments?
Doesn't it
I think-
already kind of do this, determining, you know, like if they're too young, they go to juvie court, or?
I think that it is done, it needs to be done on an individual basis, not determinative by age or a limit on age.
I remember thinking at the time we first discussed this, that there are people that are 40 years old that aren't mature,
Yeah,
Like
make the
my-
right decision.
some of them are in my family.
Yeah,
This is true.
Right, but I think what we're saying here is that we don't want to try 15-year-olds as adults.
This says
Try
18,
15-year-olds as an adult.
It says
You know-
18 to 25. not
18 to 25.
Right.
I
And
just don't, I don't know. I don't recognize that group as something special. I think it should be applied to everybody.
No, if they're not mature enough to handle the court system, that ought to come out in trial. Their lawyer can advocate for that. That's, as a blanket statement, no way.
All right. I would like, I mean, I think, you know, I think they should be looked at individually, because there might be some reasons that people that age, I don't know. Do we have a consensus? No?
I don't think we have a consensus either way.
I've heard studies that say that 1 in 4 young men and young women between the age of 18 and 25 develop their mental disorders like bipolar and stuff like that
They do.
between the ages of 18 and 25. That's why they
Right.
pick those ages.
Yeah, it does pop up there a lot. That is true.
But that's
So
not
when you
what
have
this
somebody who's
question
never
is
done
about.
anything wrong before in their life, and suddenly when they're 19, they start running around cutting people's hair or something, there's something else going on. There's some medical thing happening to them.
That's going to be taken care of, I think, in the system. I think, like Becky said, no matter what or when. It
I don't
should
know.
be. I don't like limiting it.
I think it's too categorical.
Yes, and it says, and it implies they're not, I mean, if you say, if you agree with this, that you don't think they should be culpable for their actions. And I don't think in all cases, that applies.
Well, I kind of have to go along with the con here, because we are sending, you know, it does say, and I meant that before, we are sending, you know, we think there's on, you know, villages in other countries.
The other thing is that they can vote. I mean, that's scary.
Yeah, I think let's raise the age for voting in military.
Well, those were the people that worked well this time. Don't get rid of them now.
So what is do we have a consensus or what?
I don't think we do. I
don't think we have a consensus on this.
Okay. This is question.
It sounds like we think we should look at each one individually.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Question. What happened to question?
That's it on that one. Now you go to number 10.
Wait a minute. I lost 8. Oh, 8. Okay. I lost 8 here, but that's the first one we did.
Right.
So 9 is no, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
And we think that is because we think they should be looked at more individually or something?
I think there was a wide range of reasons.
All right. We don't really have to give reasons. Um, 10, should barriers to and within the courthouse and courtrooms be eliminated whenever possible?
Yes.
I think I would agree with that.
Okay, good.
As it says, whenever possible.
Should we delete from the existing position? The league believes that there should be strict penalties and enforcement for all crimes committed with a handgun or an assault weapon.
Carol, this is mine again.
Oh, you did? Okay.
But go ahead, you read it.
Well, there's more, so go ahead.
Well, let's do this first one first.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't agree with deleting it. I think, and my reasoning is, as I said before, was that our position is to try to get rid of these weapons in general. And I think it aligns itself with that principle.
I think from our discussion, that's kind of how we landed on it. We should not delete it.
And it doesn't mean we're saying that there has to be extra penalties. It just means that it should be considered in the penalties, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't say stricter than any other weapon.
Right, because
It
I know
says
there was
strict penalties.
discussion about, Illinois does have these extra mandatory sentencing if there's a gun used, but I don't think that position, the position as it is now, talks about having an extra, just that it should be considered in the decision making.
Yeah.
So do I hear a yes? Okay, or a
This is
not
con.
okay? A con?
We don't think it should be removed.
Yeah, it's a no.
Right, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. 11B, should evidence-based practices and the best practices guide sentencing laws and prosecutorial decision-making?
Well, sure, it shouldn't be up to the governor who's trying to get elected. So he's gonna, I mean, a district attorney maybe who's gonna get elected. So he's gives, tough sentences to the people because that's what people want. No?
What goes on every day,
Well,
unfortunately. I think this is a good one.
okay.
Right. So is that okay with everybody?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, C. Should sentencing take into consideration the public health issues involved in any crime committed? Well, we didn't talk about this at all.
No, this is one we didn't do.
No, because we got
Throw
so
on that?
wrapped up. So they're talking about mental health, substance abuse services are underfunded.
But the con says it's too broad. They want,
I don't know. Yeah.
I would
Definitely
agree with this.
say-
Public health, I'm thinking of danger to other people. It's
Right.
very broad.
Right.
I don't know what it means.
I know. I thought it meant like spreading the
Yeah, spreading
coronavirus.
disease or
That's what I
something.
thought about.
Let's see.
I think
Yeah, I
this is too
Sounds very
broad to
clear.
support.
Too broad. Okay. Is that a consensus?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Speak now with your cons or pros. 11D, should there be more collaboration between stakeholders so that sentencing outcomes are more just and fair? Yes.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's a general statement, sure. Try to make that one work. 11E, should racial impact statements inform any new criminal law or regulation? What does that mean? Inform.
It means should you create a new law that would unequally affect a certain racial group, to me.
Should you ask when they go to write a new law, should they say, how does this affect the Black community? How does this affect people of color?
Or the Hispanic community,
Right, people of
or
color.
the
right.
gay community, you know.
Should we have just not racial?
Isn't this, didn't this involve the crack cocaine versus powder cocaine?
Right.
Yeah, it did. You're
So
right.
what's the con on this? Why would you be against this?
All laws should treat defendants equally. Already, a new regulation is not required. Justice should be blind. I just
Oh,
I don't
no.
like the cons. They're not, they're kind of,
Yeah, we know it's not so.
Yeah, I don't know if the feds knew what they were doing when they instituted that cocaine.
Heck, yes, they did.
Crack.
It wasn't the feds. It was people that wanted to put people in prison to fill.
Federal law, Carol. It's a federal
Uh-huh.
law. It's not a state law. The state law does not differentiate between the two. It just says cocaine. So who was president in the 80s?
Reagan.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Oh.
Then that obviously answers that question. Well, I think it should be looked at, yeah. I mean, I think it is looked at anymore. I think that there's enough public uproar for all of that they look at it differently, and they should.
Okay, so we have a consensus of yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
11F, should legislation that reduces penalties for a crime also benefit those previously convicted and sentenced for that crime?
I think I heard a yes when we were discussing that.
I think that's a yes.
I think,
Yes, that's yes.
and it usually does, just to, they go back and they'll find those people that, innocence projects are usually real good about going back and finding those people who have been affected by a law change. 11G, should the charge of felony murder be abolished?
Explain that, can you please?
Felony murder means that anytime someone commits a felony, and whether it's intended or not, someone gets killed, whether they be a member of the defendant or a police officer or a bystander or a victim, obviously the intended victim, say in a burglary, then that person is charged with felony murder. The new law in Illinois restricted it to violent crimes, felonies. Have someone, who gets killed during a theft or something is charged with felony murder.
What would they be charged with otherwise? Manslaughter or?
I don't think they'd be charged with anything.
If you're driving the getaway car?
No, that's a different, that's an accomplice.
Well, it says on here, even if someone involved in a crime, even if that person was just a driver of the getaway car.
Well, they can be charged anyway under the accomplice law. It doesn't have to be felony murder.
Okay.
Felony murder usually is applied when a co-defendant dies or a bystander, someone not involved. But if your co-defendant ends up getting killed by the police during a burglary or something, then the person who is left alive is charged or being responsible for that person's murder.
Even if the police shot him?
Yes. Because
that seems kind of strange to me, but.
Well, I like this last paragraph where it's talking about conviction of felony murder carries a penalty of 20 to 60 years imprisonment. And under some circumstances, the maximum penalty can be extended to a term of natural life. And it says that this has a extra effect on people who are sentenced as juveniles and young adults who are disproportionately impacted by the felony murder rule,
Why?
as they're more likely to act in groups or
Oh.
co-offenders and are more susceptible to peer pressure, like being in the getaway car or something. A conviction of felony murder usually results in youthful offenders being sentenced to extreme periods of incarceration, including life without parole.
I could really see that, especially if it's a young, like a younger person who is, under the influence. I mean, they're involved, they might not even, I don't know, they ought to know maybe, but
Well, they did not change it in the new law. I can tell you that. It says that they did, but it was minor changes and it's still there.
well, yeah, I think that's one of the things they had to change to get that passed.
Carol,
What?
do you know for sure?
I'm pretty sure that's what they said.
Who said?
Whoever, whatever I read that said what they had to get rid of some controversial things and they had to change that.
I don't think that's true.
Okay, so what do we have on here then? Should it be abolished or not?
I'm going to say no. Only because you got, and again,
I would say yes, use other.
I give a lot of credit to people in the system who are looking at individuals. And I just don't see this being abused. And again, I'm in a limited capacity of seeing Madison County.
Yeah.
But I just don't see it being abused. I see it rarely used. And I think it's very, it's a hard decision to make on whether to use it or not. And I don't see these long sentences being given for those kind of things. I think, I think maybe it should be separated out and given a more general or a less restrictive sentencing alternative. But I think when you when you're in a situation like that, there should be repercussions for your actions. And it's used just for serious felonies. It's not like going out.
Yeah, well,
committed.
Okay, if an 18-year-old is driving a car and he doesn't even know that there's going to be a murder committed, but he's driving the car, should he be in jail for life?
What does he think's going to happen? What does he think's going on when you say he doesn't know there's going to be a murder?
There could be somebody shooting out the window. It could be a drive-by shooting. Somebody sticks a gun out the window that he didn't even, and shoots somebody. Then he was driving the car. Would that make him felony murder if he killed somebody?
It makes him an accessory. You have to use felony murder.
So then why do we need that charge? So then why should there be a charge of felony murder if they can get him under something else?
You can't, because it doesn't always fit that way. If it's one of the defendants that's responsible, accountability theory for that.
I don't think we have a
mostly for gangs.
I'm
For
sorry.
gang crime.
Yes, I would.
We don't really have that much of that down here. It would be something more up in Chicago. And I note here that it says many states have limited the rules application to prevent unfair and absurd results. So there's already some state pushback to prevent this from being misused. And it may be that this is the sort of law that some prosecutors in areas with gangs really need to pull out and have an extra card to play or something. So on that basis, I would say I would be against a flat out elimination of the charge of felony murder.
How about restricted?
It says many Western countries have abolished it. I would wonder why.
Carol.
Yeah.
Because they're more civilized than us. I think we established that
Definitely. We're a very punitive country, very punitive.
Well, that's what we're trying to get rid of, aren't we?
Well, you're not going to do it like this.
I don't know. Is there anybody else who is not in favor of it?
I just want to say a lot of those countries don't have the crime we have either.
Right.
So
Yeah, because we're brutal.
Okay, maybe we don't have the crime because because their justice system is different than ours.
Sylvia, are
They
you?
don't have that many
Of
guns.
course it is, but from the very beginning, this is just a drop in the bucket. You know, I mean, our whole system is screwed up.
If I'm the only one who is,
No, you're not.
Would-
the only one.
if there's
I
others,
would
then
like
I
to
would
see
say,
actual numbers
I
and
would s-
evidence showing that this is abused before I would be willing to say it should be abolished.
Yeah, I lean to no on that one for
Yeah.
us.
Okay, I want to just throw in my, I'm in favor of abolishing it. If it can be abused, I'm sure it will be abused. And if you can charge the person as an accessory, then you don't really need to have that charge of felony murder. I'm opposed to putting a kid in jail for the rest of his life because he was stupid.
okay, I'm just gonna say, I'm hearing that we don't have a consensus.
Right.
Do
Sounds
people
good,
agree with
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, are there more?
do you want to read the next one? You're welcome to.
Well, are we done with that one? We're done?
Yes.
You can go for it, sister.
Well, go ahead, we only have, okay, I'll read one, you can do the next one. IDOC, incarceration, mandatory supervised release. Should offenders be entitled to humane treatment and access to health care?
Another duh, of course.
Of course, yes.
Mhm.
Okay,
Well, B, should all programs be evidence-based or based on best practices? Yes. C, should all rehabilitative and evidence-based programs be made available to all for whom they are appropriate?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
D, should programs be tailored according to individual needs? Woo! Okay. If you got enough people to do that kind of,
Ideally.
ideally it
Yeah.
should be, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
But funding, all that
Yeah.
enters in.
well, if we're going for ideal, I guess we'd say yes.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's go for ideal.
And E, should all offenders have access to program credits?
Mhm.
What's that?
they just put that in the new bill because I don't know, now I don't think necessarily Madison County, but some places must have been taking away, like if people get credits for college, or for good behavior, they were taking away their good behavior time and which made their sentence longer.
Don't say Madison County. This is IDOC now. This is.
No, I said I don't know what's going on in Madison County, but
Madison
I
County
had
doesn't have
read
anything to
that.
do with it though, Carol. It's.
But does program credits necessarily mean studies, or, I mean, can they do like Madison County has those people who go out and clean up, what do they call that system?
Community serve.
Something, do they get credit
SWAP.
for that? That only in
It's
jail.
an alternative. It's an alternative sentence. Instead of having a fine or going to jail, you do the SWAP program. It's more alternative. I think these are prison issues. These
Right,
aren't
yeah.
county
I
jail
think the
issues.
prison.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It says, should all offenders have access? Are there some offenders that shouldn't? That's the question.
Well, I don't think it matters to some people who have life sentences. Your program credits usually shorten your sentence.
So you include that in a category of offenders that shouldn't have access to program credits? I mean, it says, should all offenders have access? So
Yeah.
if we say no, then that means there are some that shouldn't. And I don't know who those are.
I don't think that they should be denied access. It's just, I don't know what kind of benefit it's going to give them other than doing something in there to better themselves.
Right.
Personally, I don't think
I
you should.
think
limit it,
everybody
though.
should have access to it.
I think so too.
All
Are we
right.
gonna say no?
No, okay, yes,
Yes.
on 12.
Yes.
Okay, that was.
12. Wait,
12F?
was that 12F? Yeah,
I think that's E, should all offenders and program programs.
wait, I lost.
Oh, here's 12F.
Ready for F.
Is pre-release planning critical for successful reentry into the community? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are adult transition centers critical in bridging the gap between prison and the community in order to ensure successful integration into society? Critical. They'd be great, but I don't know how you're going to get the funding. I mean, funding would be an issue there.
I don't know, but I think they are critical, and I think there aren't enough. I think that they are
There aren't
critical.
any. There aren't any. Where are they? I mean, maybe in Chicago. I've never heard of one.
I know, talked to someone a couple of months ago that said his brother had to go to St. Louis to be in a halfway house.
Yeah, I don't think there are any in the county. So
they're not asking us, do we have any, or how are we going to fund them? They just said, are they
Right.
critical?
Do we
Yes.
approve of the concept?
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
And it's one of those things you save money by doing it rather than putting the person back in prison for another several years.
Right.
okay,
Right.
are we ready to go on?
Mm-hmm.
Should the length of mandatory supervised release, which is parole, be determined by completion of goals tailored to the individual rather than a strict length of time? Sounds good.
Yes.
I guess, yes.
Should rules attached to parole be clearly explained to the offender as well as expected consequences? Well, yeah.
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 Another duh. Should caseloads, okay, here's a good one. Should caseloads be manageable so that parole officers are able to play a supportive role with the parolee? Woohoo! Yes.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah.
And keep their sanity.
Yeah, really.
There's nothing here about Illinois doesn't, we don't hire private parole companies, do we?
No,
Like Missouri does?
no.
What
It's
do
all,
they hire?
There are no parole officers?
I'm sorry.
There are no parole officers?
They're state, hired by the
Oh,
state,
they're state, not county. Okay,
and they're not private agents.
right. Okay, I got you.
They're private and they make money by people violating their paroles and being turned in and going through the process again.
That's like a bounty hunter, you mean? They go after 'em?
Okay.
It's probably worse.
Yes, I would think. All right.
Have people like in Texas who for DUIs are placed on probation for 10 years and have to pay a fee every month.
Oh,
Now that's a money-making proposition done by the state.
That is criminalizing poverty too. All right. So what, 13? Somebody else do this one. I don't like saying recidivism.
From recidivism to successful reentry.
All right.
Should all unnecessary barriers encountered by people with criminal records which hinder their successful return to society after completion of sentences be removed? I don't.
Anybody know what those unnecessary barriers would be?
Yeah. That's what I'm concerned about. What do they mean by that?
Well, let's scroll down and look and see.
Yes, that-
Difficulties people,
You
criminals.
have to.
Oh, I think that means like expunging records and stuff.
It's here.
Oh, and banning the box. When they got rid of ban the box, if you had to, you had to, on a job application, you had to check a box automatically if you'd ever had a felony.
Correct.
And now they got rid of that, although I think they still have it for going to college maybe, but
Well, you know where they should have it is if you're going from one bank where you've embezzled to another bank.
Right.
well,
And because I've seen people who've done this anyway. It says on the next page, among the barriers include the burden of being a felon, debt barriers, housing barriers, employment barriers, and difficulty in pursuing higher education.
What?
So, one that I think I really, really don't like is the one that if you are a convicted felon, that you cannot get into public housing.
Exactly. I think it has to be within a certain amount of time is what they told me, but still.
I think that's reprehensible.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're coming out of prison, or even if you're just if you're on probation, I mean, where are you supposed to live? You can't go out and buy a house. And I just think that one's horrible.
You do your time, you pay your fines, you do whatever restitution, whatever you have to do, and then you don't need like a scarlet letter that says, a scarlet F.
Right.
So what's our opinion on 13A?
Yes.
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 I hear yes.
You want to hear yes.
I didn't hear anybody say otherwise.
Well, Brett brought up an issue, so.
I did quickly change to the next question, but.
13B, should people with criminal records have access to the same income-based support opportunities and services that are available to others in society for which they would otherwise qualify? Well, why not?
Right. Sometimes they don't
Yes.
want to give them
I mean, we want to keep them out of jail.
food stamps. I'm trying to think of the word. Help me, Jane, not food stamps.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes they don't want to give them SNAP and things like that.
That's for BS.
Okay.
Is there more?
So I have a consensus of yes on 13B.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
yeah,
let's do-
especially since it seems to me just an extension of A. It's part
Right.
of the unnecessary barriers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, well, we might get this done.
We go on to number 14.
I'm sorry, what?
Done. We're almost done. Go, Carol.
Before you go,
Funding. Should we delete from the existing position? The league believes that state funds should emphasize community-based sanctions over construction of more prisons.
No,
Now,
no.
well,
No.
there is,
Mm.
let me see, let's read that because it's the wording. I thought one of them was like change the wording.
14B. Below is simply a better rewording of the position, substituting treatment instead of incarceration for over the construction of more prisons.
Right. So they're saying, should we get rid of the existing position and put in, so then the new one would say, the league believes that state funds should emphasize community-based sanctions and treatment instead of incarceration.
Right, that's what.
Oh,
Why didn't they just ask us that?
So A, we want to delete it.
And
Community-based sanctions. What does that mean?
is what?
What are community-based?
Probably like your restorative justice kind of thing. And
Oh,
doing community-based.
okay, I guess the word sanctions has different meanings. Okay,
I mean, I'm just assuming that they're being positive.
okay.
Unless you want to ask them to change that word.
Human programs through problem-solving courts.
And it is a sanction. I mean, if you are on probation, that's a sanction in the legal world.
Okay, 14C should, so I had a consensus yes, both of those, right?
Yes.
And C, should all program funding be periodically evaluated for its effectiveness and to ensure that proper offender populations are being served?
Say that's a yes.
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 Left us with an easy one at the end.
Okay, now I have one question in here. Jane, the school to prison pipeline, that wasn't addressed, right?
That's right. And I don't know exactly
Well, I think we need to add yours. You had written out a really good, and I don't have it to here to share. You come up with your own question, remember?
Right, yeah.
And
I have
that
two questions.
When did that come up? Under which question?
I didn't really see it come up.
This is an add-on.
So I think, Jane, go ahead. What were your two parts?
Okay, I don't have the paper in my hand, but the first question was, should Illinois school districts try to minimize the involvement of school resource officers? That was one. And the second one was, should districts that do have school resource officers be required to have a memorandum of understanding that outlines the particulars of everyone's responsibilities, something like that?
Those both sound good.
So they should minimize them. What was the first one though? Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Let me go grab my folder over there and I can give you how I wrote it.
In general, do you agree with that? We're not saying they should not have any.
I said yes.
Could we say that she said that they should have memorandum of understanding, but they should be used for, they could be used like for relationship development. They should not be used for discipline, which would be in the memorandum, that there should not be school resource officers involved.
I mean, they shouldn't be involved in food fights in the cafeteria.
They shouldn't be involved in.
All right, I have it. You ready? The first question was, should Illinois school districts pursue ways to reduce the involvement of police officers in schools and reinvest the money in more school counselors, psychologists, social workers, mental health, and other programming for students?
Yes, very good.
And the second question is, should the state of Illinois require any school district employing school resource officers to have a written memorandum of understanding with the law enforcement agency providing the officers? My understanding is that the law currently encourages them to have a written memorandum, but doesn't require.
I think both of those are excellent.
Jane, did you have in your notes under what question that was, or was that a completely separate area?
Well, it was basically my own add-on because I couldn't find anything in these questions that addressed in another group I belong to.
Yeah, the only place, there was something under policing about presence in, I don't know exact, there was something under policing maybe, but I think we should just suggest those as questions that they add, except they probably can't add them if other people haven't.
Yes, if other people haven't done it. That's why I was under, it seemed to me it was under part of a question.
All right, let's look under policing really quickly. What was, what number was policing? Anybody remember? I don't remember. Pre-trial procedures. I think it was it after that? Yeah. Here it is.
I didn't see a place when we went through it.
You didn't see anything. You have to read, I guess, in the paragraphs, what they would include it under policing.
I was looking for it because it was my topic that I was interested in. I really couldn't find it anywhere.
I found something earlier today, but I don't know where in the heck I wrote it down at, where I thought it would come under. Maybe it was D. Let me see.
You could just add a question.
Excuse me.
Because it may be some other
It would,
league.
it would fit under that one you just had up. Scroll back up.
You're a speed reader. Okay.
The community, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a sidecar issue, but it would fit under, do you want law enforcement to collaborate with community members to develop policies and stuff? And that would, it's kind of like a community agreement on how SROs behave in schools.
Well, it's to reduce crime, but it's really because she was talking about school to prison pipeline, it's really to keep them from going into the system.
I
It would
think
be to reduce crime.
there was something about, you know, reducing mass incarceration. Somewhere I read that. And I mean, this is where a lot of mass incarceration starts.
Yeah.
With kids.
Exactly. Well, the whole thing is about reducing mass incarceration. Oh, here's where.
Can't we tell them they forgot something and they need to look into this?
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's important enough to put in there somewhere.
can we put this is the one where, this is where it is. It says where law enforcement agencies should avoid using law enforcement tactics that unnecessarily stigmatize youth and marginalize their participation in schools. Parentheses, where law enforcement officers should have limited involvement in discipline in school.
What question number is that?
It's 6D.
That's excellent. Yes.
But it doesn't say anything about the memorandum.
Doesn't matter. We can put it in under comments.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying.
Says limited involvement in discipline, and that is the whole purpose of the memorandum. It is to delineate what the responsibilities of the school are and what the responsibilities of the officers are. The school is supposed to handle discipline. The officers are supposed to handle criminal matters.
So do you feel, Sylvia, that covers your first question?
Okay, Jane.
I mean, yes, Jane. I'm looking at Sylvia.
Okay, I heard Sylvia.
I did say Sylvia, but I'm looking at her and that's why. Anyway, I don't have your picture up here on my little thing because I'm minimized. Go ahead. So do you think that fulfills your first question?
Yes.
Oh, I think you should just put them both in there. They're too good to.
I think they're important.
I would add them on.
Okay.
Just the way she said them.
Okay. So I have those, Sylvia. I have those. You can send them again if you want. I meant Jane. Everybody's picture so I can see everybody again.
I think that would be fine.
It's 9:01. I would not have.
Oh my gosh.
I would not have believed an hour ago.
Hey.
Huh?
Very good. Yes.
Okay, Jane, I have those two statements of yours. I needed to see.
Everybody's talking about kitty cats tonight. Come get in the picture.
Some center.
Nope. Okay. Sit on the puzzle.
Okay, I might have to go back and listen to the recording if I can't read my handwriting, but if I asked you to send me a statement, will you do that?
Sure.
Do
you want the whole document? You mean all of the
I have yours. I have your two questions. You had sent those to me in an email earlier.
Okay, yeah.
But
so what do you want?
Well, on any of the other ones, I didn't write down. Somebody's going to send something. I don't know if I wrote down who was going to send it.
Sylvia was going to send a couple.
To send.
structure should be appropriate to local.
Becky
county.
was gonna send something.
I'll send some.
I think that covers it.
Okay, so then really quickly, who is on here? Okay, so how are we going to handle the board reviewing this, Joanne? Are we just going to like send it out to the board members and say yes or what?
Yes, I guess I'll send it out to the board members and they approve it. I don't think we have to have another board meeting.
Okay, so then,
Get it all put together and then Becky can send it to the board members. Is that all right, Becky?
Do we have a majority of the board here?
No,
No? Oh, that's too bad.
No.
and how many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
10.
and me was 10 people. Okay.
Yeah, this is Carol. Did you count me? My computer decided that I should not have my picture up there, but I still can hear you on my phone.
Yes, we got you. Right.
We have it.
And there's 2 of us here, so count 2 of us.
I got 2. Right.
Well, Mary Guy was here earlier.
You're right. That's 11. And is Ann still here? No.
It's here.
no, Ann dropped off.
So that's 12.
There's
Okay.
12.
Okay.
There was one thing on here that never was brought up, and I'm surprised because it's so timely, and that's about police accountability. There's nothing in here about police accountability.
Well, you know, the reason is because they don't have a position on policing. So yeah, when they put it in there, right, we talked, when did we talk? Oh, it's because I was going over those went over those points, right? Yeah. Was there even anything about hiring and firing practices in there or
No,
anything?
they didn't put that in there.
Or police unions
No.
or qualified immunity? None of those. Those are really important. I think they're police
I thought
positions.
that was in the discussion on one of those questions.
Because of the new law. The new law has all that stuff in it.
Well, we talked, when I did policing, I started like with that one place that had those 8 points because I wanted us to understand what those terms meant. But then they really didn't come up in the questions, the qualified immunity, the thing about the police unions having too much. And like Sylvia said, the police,
But see, I
did you
thought
say?
that was in one of the questions because we discussed that.
Which one, Joanne?
I don't know.
Which,
That's what I'm trying to
not
figure
which
out.
question, which comment?
Well, wouldn't it be under one of the 6, under one of the subdivisions of question 6?
I don't think so. I can't.
I don't know.
think-
I don't have the full thing out here.
They weren't
I
very
don't think-
specific at all about that
Huh?
area.
I don't think there was any question about police accountability. Like for instance, the question, should a police officer who has been accused of, like excessive force or something, but they quit the force, should they be allowed, to go to work
Didn't
somewhere
one of
else?
those questions kind of address that?
I don't think so.
I thought we discussed that at one of our other meetings.
I think we discussed it because when I started out the meeting, I had went to that one site that said, here's like 8 things, like broken windows, policing and stuff like unions. And we talked about that because I wanted people to understand what those meant if they came up. But then when we went and looked at the questions, they're not addressed in the questions, I don't think. Police accountability and.
Well, if it didn't, it didn't. So.
It didn't, but I think the league is going to be, how are we going to take stands on those if they don't? I mean, I think we need to challenge the state league on that.
Well,
How are we going to take stands on those
Well,
positions?
we can't take a stand on it if we don't have a position on it.
That's what I'm saying, but
can't we suggest that?
We
Just
can put it in
to
the
the league.
comment.
In a parting shot at the end, we were concerned that this wasn't addressed.
Yeah. So what are the things that we would want to put in there though about, now what Silver, what you were saying, police accountability?
Why don't you email the committee and see,
Okay,
and see what they say about that?
okay, all right, accountability and
Qualified immunity. That's one I'd forgotten, qualified immunity.
qualified immunity, because that was one of the things that was controversial that was in the original version of the bill that they took out. That
Right.
because there was so much pushback against the qualified immunity, and also some of the stuff about the unions, which that might be under qualified immunity, might come under union.
That's in the new law. The union stuff is all in the new law.
Right, it's in the new one, but we still should have a position on
Well,
it.
yeah, but it's in the new law.
Right.
But it seemed to me we discussed that one of the very first meetings.
We discussed it, but it did not, we discussed it because I said, here's some things about policing that we need to know what it means, like the broken window. But then when I said, let's look at the questions, it didn't come up in the questions.
Oh, come on.
So I will send an email tomorrow and ask them what, we're wondering why this wasn't included or what about that.
Right.
Okay, so then the rest of the timeline. So this week, should I write up the comments and send them to the committee and have them look at them and see if you think they're right? And then we'll send them to the board, or do we need to do a Zoom and do that together? Who's on the committee that's here?
I guess I might be on the committee.
I think you got drafted.
I think Brett and I are on the committee.
Yes, you are.
And
And
we'd be willing to look at the notes
Right.
and,
Okay.
and just comment and just before you send them to the board, if you want us
but
to.
do we want to Zoom to write up the notes? Do we want to go by each one and say, here's what we said, get our wording right? Or should I?
I think we did that today and just send it to.
Yeah, I think that's it. We just need to put it all together.
We did it if I write up exactly what people said. How about if I send it, how about if I send to Barb and Jane and see what you think? If this is what we actually said?
Yeah.
And then we can send that to Becky to send to the board.
Right, that sounds like a plan.
By when? By
So
the
we'll
end
send
of-
it back to you, Carol, right?
Yeah, so let's see, I don't have my calendar here. We got the 18th is Friday, right?
Wednesday.
The 18th is today.
18th is
Today,
today. The 22nd, I have so many things going on this week, which is more than usual. So the 22nd. So if we get it to the board, by be ready to go to the state. What we sent to the board, they just need to approve it and we can send it to the state, right?
Right, and you're doing it on the internet, so it'll be, we won't have to wait for the mailman to deliver
Right,
it.
so I think by the 25th, how's that, Monday? If we can get it to the board, get it to Becky to send out on the 25th, does that sound all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joanne?
Okay.
All right,
When you send it to me, tell me when you want the board to give feedback. We'll have to give us a deadline. And who we send feedback
all right.
to.
Yeah, and it depends if,
You want
I
us just
think
to
by that
approve, not
point-
approve, and by what date?
or amend, accept it or amend it. And tell us what else they would rather have in it.
Well, if those people weren't at any of the programs and didn't see any of the programs,
Right.
I don't know where they
Well, I think it's board members. So who on here? Susan, Joanne, Carol, Sylvia,
Mhm.
Becky, and me.
Carol guys.
And
Carol
Mary,
Dodge
Thank
and
you.
Earl
Yeah,
Dodge.
it's almost the board, right? It's almost all board members, so
Got
you
a
should be able to
majority right
say,
now.
huh?
I think we have a majority.
Well, yeah, but you haven't seen what we wrote up yet.
Right.
Well,
Right.
you better be writing up what we told you to.
I hope I can read my notes. If not, then I have to go back and listen to the whole 2 hours anyway.
I think we're going to be okay with the board. I think that's going to be just kind of,
I think so too. By the time the board gets it, it should be ready to send off.
I would think so, yes.
Just somebody,
Okay.
when I send it out, somebody tell me board needs to respond to this by what date? I don't need to pull it
Okay.
out of my hat.
Okay. Wow, I think you guys did wonderful today, didn't we? Yeah, we should all be proud.
You did too. Thank you.
Great.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Carol.
Hey, Carol,
All
do
right.
you need the recording of this meeting?
Maybe.
Okay, it'll take me like a day at least to get it uploaded.
What does that involve? Is that hard to do?
No, it's not hard to do. It just takes like a
Okay.
couple hours for
No.
the computer to send it up.
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.